Om Sadashiva-Samarambham Shankaracharya-Madhyamam Asmadacharya-Paryantam Vande Guru-Paramparam. Om Sahana-Vavatu Sahana-Bhunaktu Saha-Veeram-Karvavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat. So we are on verse number 50 and we will just chant that. So please unmute yourself. Verse 50, Aparoksha Anubhuti. Brahmaiva sarvanamani
ब्रह्मैव सर्वनामानि
Upani vividhani cha
रूपाणि
विविधानि च
Karmanyapi samagrani
कर्मण्यपि समग्राणि
Vivartiti Shrutirjagau.
बिभर्तिति श्रुतिजगत्.
So another statement from Shruti is being taken, and this time it is Brahadaranyaka Upanishad. So that in the first chapter of the Upanishad, you have the definition of the world, which is Trayam va idam nama rupam karma. Trayam va idam nama rupa karma. So idam, this universe, this world, is Trayam only. Is only three attributes are there. What are they? Nama, name, rupam, you can take it as property, attribute, and karma, function. So every anatma is defined as name, form, function. Name, property, function. Name, attribute, function. And we all know, for example, the normal example we take is gold ornaments. The same gold, when it has a particular shape, we call it a bangle, it has got a particular function as a bangle. When we recast the same gold into a necklace, it's got a particular shape, a particular name, and another function, right? So wherever what is being conveyed is wherever form is being changed, wherever the attribute is being changed, the name also changes. And when the name and the attribute change, the function also is different. So that's how the world is being defined. And he says, however, in spite of the fact that the name has changed, the form has changed, and the attribute has changed, what happens? Brahma eva vibharti. Brahman alone is the supporter. And the ultimate adhishthanam, substratum of everything, is Brahman alone. Why do we say that? Because existence comes from Brahman. Satta. Satta comes from Brahman alone. And that's why Brahman is sometimes called Satta Pradata. Satta Pradata, the giver of existence. That entity which lends existence to all the products and things in the universe, that is Brahman. And then look at the other words. Sarva namani rupani vividhani cha. Sarva namani, all the names. Sarva rupani, all the forms. Vividhani cha, different types. So Brahman lends existence to all forms of anatma, in whichever form it is, whichever name it has. What happens? All get existence only from Brahman. And then he says, Samagrani karmani api. All the functions, karma, are functions of what? Samagrani, samagra means everything. So all functions of karma are only functions of these three, of these two, nama rupa. So when you say nama rupa karma, you have to say each nama rupa has one particular karma. And therefore, any nama rupa that you define, any karma that you define, can be linked to a particular nama rupa. So what is being said now is the entire inert world, the entire anatma prapancha, the supporter is Brahman alone. And therefore, this universe is dependent upon Brahman because it is supported by Brahman. Right? And what is existing in terms of being dependent on something else, that dependent existence is mithya, and what independently exists is satyam. Therefore, ultimately speaking, anatma is dependent upon Brahman. Therefore, really speaking, you can say that there is no anatma at all, because the dependent existence is as good as no existence. So, what is independently existing alone is satyam. And who says this? Shrutir Jagau. Jagau means mentions or talks about. So iti, in this manner, Shruti talks about Brahman and Anatma. Anatma being dependent upon Brahman, therefore you really cannot count it as a second entity. Okay. Now let's look at verse number 51. We will chant. Suvarna
वर्णजायमानस्य
वर्णत्वं च शाश्वतम्
सुवर्णशाश्वतम्
ब्रह्मणो जायमानस्य
ब्रह्मणो जायमानस्य
ब्रह्मत्वं च तथा भवेत्
ब्रह्मत्वं च तथा
च तथा भवेत्.
Okay, so he says that Suvarna Jaya Manasya. Jaya Manasya is that which is being born from what? Suvarna. So anything which is born from gold. Suvarna is gold. Anything which is born from gold, he's talking about. And it is not said here in so many words, but you have to supply. Anything which is born from gold. What is born from gold? Chain, bangle, ring, all these things are born. And are they what you call non-changing? No, because the same gold can be, the same necklace can be recast into a bangle. The bangle can be recast into a chain. Therefore, Suvarna Jaya Manasya, whatever is born from the substratum, whatever is born from the gold is always changing, right? So first it was a bangle, and therefore there's got a particular form. So you say this is the bangle, you give it a name, and what do you do with the bangle? You put it on the hand. It's got a particular karma, a particular function. Similarly, when the same bangle is melted and put back and made into a chain, then it is hung on your neck, wrapped around your neck. The function has changed. But are these all permanent? No. These are all superficial statuses. They are all subject to change. And what is there in which is common to all these different products? So he says Suvarnatvam cha Shashvatam. Suvarnatvam is the abstract form, the goldness, you can call it, the property of being gold, the status of being gold, that can never change. So we can call it the goldness of the ornament is never lost. Each of the ornaments, whether it is a bangle or a chain or a ring, ultimately that ornament, when you say what is the essence, you will have to say it is gold. Therefore, Nama Rupa Karma, the form, the name, and the function can change according to the change in form, but the essence, the gold cannot change. Right? So similarly, in the universe also, you have to say, what he says, Brahmano jayamanasya, whatever is born from Brahman. So what is born from Brahman? The planets are born, the sun is born, human beings are born, the earth is born. So everything that is born can change. The sun can collapse into a black hole. Planets can go away. Planets can, be destroyed. Galaxies can be destroyed. Coal can change into diamond. A sun can change into a supernova. All changes can take place in the products. In the universe is constantly changing. As you know, it's constantly expanding also, right? There is also change. The universe constantly expands. Therefore, change is the only constant in the universe, in the Jagat. What then is common to all? So he says, Brahmatvam tatha bhavet. So Brahmatvam is Shashvatam. You have to borrow the word Shashvatam, eternal, from the first line. What is eternal is Brahmatvam only, the quality of being Brahman. The world is born of Brahman. It sustains itself in Brahman and it gets resolved into Brahman. Therefore, the Brahman status of the world, the Brahmatvam, is never lost. And that's what he has said. Suvarnath Jayamanasya, the various products born from gold, Suvarnatvam cha Shashvatam, have got all the time have got Suvarnatvam, goldness. Tatha, in the same manner, Brahmano Jayamanasya, Brahmatvam Shashvatam. In the same way, the Jagat, the universe born of Brahman, has got Brahmatvam all the time. Has got Brahmatvam all the time means it never loses the status of being Brahman. Just as the necklace is always gold, the chain is always gold, the ring is always gold, the bangle is always gold. Whatever status, whatever form the universe takes, it never loses the real status, which is Brahmatvam, of being Brahman. So I was Brahman, I am Brahman, I ever will be Brahman. I will never deviate from my Brahmatvam. That is the idea conveyed. Okay, let us go to verse number 52. We will chant. Swalpam apyantaram kritva
स्वल्पमन्तरं कृत्वा
जीवात्म परमात्मनोः
जीवात्म परमात्मनोः
यसं तिष्ठति मूढात्मा
यशं तिष्ठति
अतिमूढात्मा
अयं तस्याभिभाषितम्
भयं
भयं
तस्याभिभाषितम्
तस्याभिभाषितम्.
So there's a slight deviation. If you remember that in some verses back, I think it was in 47, 48, or we were talking about criticizing the idea of Bheda Darshana, of seeing duality. Duality was criticized, and it was said that whoever believes in this duality, whoever believes in plurality, whoever sees the universe as plural, he will go from mortality to mortality. The same idea is conveyed here. Yaha samtisthati moodhatma. So yaha moodhatma, that deluded person, samtisthati, who remains. What does he see? Who remains in a vision. What does he see? Swalpam api antaram kritva jivatma paramatmano. He sees swalpam antaram, even the smallest difference between word jivatma and paramatma. Whoever sees even the slightest difference between jivatma and paramatma, what happens to him? Tasya bhayam abhibhashitam. For him, there is always fear. This duality This multiplicity is the cause of fear. So that's what he's been talking about. And if you remember, those of you who have done the Upanishads, Taittiriya Upanishad, there was a statement, Yada hevaisha etasmin udaram antaram kurute atha tasya bhayam bhavati. That person who sees even the smallest difference, he will, so, etasmin udaram antaram kurute. The perception of even the smallest difference between what? We have only three things we see, right? Jiva Jagat, Ishvara. Therefore, if you see a difference between Jiva and Jagat, or between Jagat and Ishvara, or even between Jiva and Jiva, this is all Dvaitam only. And any vision of difference, tasya bhayam bhavati. You will be constantly afraid of the person who is different from you, from the entity which is different from you, right? So what is being said is, perceptually, yes, you will see differences. Empirically, differences are there. You will see that. But those differences should be taken as mithya, never as absolute reality. If you take them as absolute reality, if you take a difference as absolute reality, you will be constantly haunted by fear. Okay. Then verse number 53 talks about the same thing. We will chant. Yatra jnanad bhavedvaitam
यत्र ज्ञानाद्वैतं
itarastattra pashyati
इतरस्तत्र पश्यति
atmatvena yada sarvam
आत्मत्वेन यदा सर्वम्
netarastattra chanvapi.
नेतरस्तत्राण्वपि
The idea conveyed here is that when you are ajnani, you will see duality. When you are ajnani, you will see non-duality. So when you see Advaitam, that is Satyam. When you see Dvaitam, that is Mithya. So if you take the example of the rope and the snake, the one who has understood the rope, he sees the rope. One who has not understood the rope as the rope, he sees the snake. Okay. And when you see something different from you, then that becomes a source of fear. In fact, Shruti says that Brahman is not only a source of Ananda, it is a source of Bhayam also. It's a source of fear also. So, how do you reconcile that? Brahman is a source of Ananda for a wise person. But the same Brahman is a source of fear for the Ajnani, right? If you take the snake rope example, you can revert that statement saying that for the person who has a torch, the rope is not a source of fear. But for the person for whom there is no source of light, he does not see the real nature of the rope as the rope, and therefore the same rope can be a source of fear for him. And this is what is said here, yatra ajnana. So that yatra jnana has to be carefully broken. It is not yatra jnana, it is yatra ajnana. At the time of ajnanam, of ignorance, dvaitam bhavet. Dvaitam is seen. And Dvaitam is seen means what? Tatra, at that time, itaraha pasyati. Itaraha means something else, a second thing. So at the time of Dvaitam, Tatra itaraha pasyati. The ignorant person sees something else, sees a second thing. But yada. So yada you have to say, at the time of Jnanam, sarvam atmatvena pasyet. Everything is seen as Atma only. There is no duality, and Therefore, tatra anu api. Therefore, he does not see even the smallest duality. Tatra anu api itaraha na pasyati. So, anu means very small. Itaraha means another thing. Therefore, tatra itaraha anu api. Even the smallest thing he does not see. Smallest difference he does not see. Na pasyati. Therefore, at the time of ignorance, at the time of ajnanam, the ajnani will see duality. At the time of jnanam, he will not see duality even in the smallest way. And therefore, we have to say that whatever is born from ajnanam, that is duality, that is mithya only. So we are going through these verses quickly because basically they are all ideas which we have already studied. Not much explanation is necessary, but if you have any questions, please ask. So I'll give a break between 3-4 verses so that questions can be taken. So this is one of those breaks. Right. So I'll presume that there is nobody who has a question. So let us go to verse number 54. We will chat. Please unmute yourself. Yes.
Sir, can I just,
Yeah,
sorry,
go ahead.
this thing about a person who sees duality always has fear. So
Yes.
that means you have to overcome that fear to come to singularity,
The
to
other way
see
around.
Brahman.
It's the other way around. Once you overcome the vision of duality, then there will be no more fear.
So that's what I meant, that you overcome that fear.
No,
And
you
then
overcome.
no.
It's not that way.
Okay,
You
okay. You
overcome the
overcome
vision of duality.
duality.
Yes. You
Okay,
see
okay.
everything as non-dual, then only fear will go away. As long as you see
Yes.
something different from you, there will always be fear. It cannot be wished away. The only way to get rid of the fear is to know that there is nothing separate from me, the Atma.
So in other words, you have to own everything in a layman's language. Own up
You
to
don't
everything.
own it. You just say, I am Atma. Everything is in me alone.
Yes. Yes. Okay.
Acharya ji,
Yes.
Acharya ji,
Remember, yes, Rituji.
sir, आप बोलिए पहले. I will ask later.
I was just telling Meera that
Meera.
you cannot really say, I own something. Why
No,
not?
no, I didn't mean that way, sir. I meant that
But
ultimately.
I'm trying to explain why you can't say that.
Okay.
You said you own up everything, so I'm saying that's not a correct statement. Why?
Because everything is me only.
Everything is you. When you say I own something, it means you and there is something else which you own. That vision of duality has to be overcome.
Yes, yes.
Therefore, and remember that this understanding, it starts in our own heads. And therefore, language is extremely important. As long as I say I own something, there is duality. If you say I am everything, then there is no duality.
Yes. Okay.
Yes,
Acharya ji, is there any definition of what this bhaya is, or is this bhaya of samsara?
It could be fear of anything.
Yeah.
Any fear that you have, any insecurity that you feel, it comes from the fact that something else can be a threat to you. And that's why something else is there. If nothing is there, if you know that everything is me, where is the question of you being a threat to yourself?
Thank you.
So, Acharya ji, when you understand that there's nothing else, only you, it is at the paramarthik level, but at the transactional level, but at the transactional level, even a jnani, when he comes across a cobra or any other or a tiger or something which is actually a threat in the Vyavaharika world, how is he supposed to take it?
See, now you got a very good question. If I see a snake or a cobra in front of me, right? That cobra is a threat at which level? Paramarthika or Satya or Vyavaharika?
Vyavaharika.
So that cobra cannot be a threat to you, the Atma, but it is definitely a threat to your physical body.
Yes. So
And
that
therefore you take all the necessary precautions to ensure the body which you are utilizing at the moment is not harmed.
right.
You cannot say that cobra is mithya, I keep sitting there. The cobra may not know that your body is mithya, you know.
Yes, exactly. The cobra doesn't know. and
Cobra does.
how about the bhayam, the fear in that emotion of fear will be there
It will
in
be there
the
in the mind, obviously.
yes.
But that's why I keep saying that there are two levels of liberation. One is Nitya Mukti and one is Jivan Mukti. Jivan Mukti is related to the mind. You can never be completely free of fear because the body is involved, the mind is involved. At Nitya Mukti level, it's from the Paramarthika angle. Whatever happens to the body, I am not touched. That is it purely in terms of understanding. But at the Vyavaharika level, yes, you have, because your body is the instrument for your transactions with this universe. You have relationships which you have to maintain. You have, if you're a teacher, you have to give teaching, and you're not going to be a good teacher if you get bitten by a cobra. So, you need to keep the Vyavaharika instruments functional. This is the problem with understanding. You have to understand at two different levels. At Vyavaharika level, all transactions have to be done in the way they have to be done. At Paramarthika level, you have to understand that it is a Vyavaharika system which is functioning. And I, the Atma, am not affected. So again and again, I'll repeat, when you say I, you immediately define what do I mean by this I in this sentence. Then only clarity will come.
Yes, I think I got it. Thank you, Acharya.
So, Om Acharya, so the
Yes.
generation of any emotion in a Nitya Mukt, one who's absolutely Brahmanist, will also probably not happen, or it may just be, very fleeting, or it will not
It will
happen at all.
happen. It will happen because you've got a mind.
So, but then essentially we say that we are Nitya Mukta, essentially the
Again,
thoughts.
who is this? Who is Nitya Mukta? You, the RC, or you, the OC?
In my understanding, the person who's a jnani, who's a Brahmanist, would probably not even have any emotion of fear,
No, that
probably
is
even
not
when he
correct.
sees a cobra.
That is not correct. You are a jnani. When you say I am jnani, it is it's not the OC. It is the RC which is talking. But he is saying that I, the RC, consisting of this body-mind complex and the Atma. I am actually the Atma because the body-mind complex is a dependent entity. That is the meaning of the statement I am jnani. And being a dependent entity, you are dependent upon the world. There will be emotions. Don't ever think that a jnani does not cry, okay? It's a very wrong concept. Your understanding that you are free of emotion is Atma, I the Atma am free of emotion. But the mind which I have, that will be subject to emotion. Yes, because of this stable base of the fact that I am the Atma being there in your mind, the impact of the emotions will be less. You will recover much faster. But the FIR can never be zero. FIR has to be there for a mind. That is why Jivan Mukti can never be 100%. The whole life, even once you get Jnanam, the entire life, you can spend in improving your mind. That is called Jivan Mukti. There is no 100% Jivan Mukti. That 100% Jivan Mukti will come at Videha Mukti only.
Okay, Acharya. Thank you.
This is a concept which needs to be assimilated because most people don't talk about this difference. They think, if you are a jnani, then nothing touches you, you're like a piece of stone. It's not so. You have a mind is functional.
Thank you.
Oh,
Okay.
Acharya.
Yes,
So
Ajashwari.
would it be fair then to say that the way a jnani experiences it is that the identification that a commoner would have with the experiences of the mind vis-a-vis the identification that a jnani has with whatever is going through, that is a vast difference, because there is a tendency to kind of stay with it, which deepens the latent impressions for a jnani vis-a-vis
Yes,
the
that you can say. Because when I think I'm the mind, or I think I'm the body, then the impact is far more on me than when I know that I am not. The impact is still there.
right.
Because not all emotions can be nipped at the source.
Right.
So it's there. If you are deeply fond of somebody, there's nothing wrong. If something happens to somebody, you will worry. If you have a small
Yes.
kid and the kid falls sick, you will worry and take him to hospital. But all the while, the idea should be there that what is happening in Vyavaharika. At Paramarthika, nothing is happening.
Right.
So at Vyavaharika level, you have to behave like a Vyavaharika person.
Right. So the samskaras essentially are not generated. It is just a response which is needed for that particular situation and moment.
Yes, yes.
And also the other thing I wanted to just clarify was, I think I lost it. Okay, I'll come back to it when I remember.
All right. Okay.
So, just to follow on with this, the FIR for the Jnani obviously would be very, very low for the same
Yes.
situation that somebody else might have.
That is solely because of the lack of very strong identification.
Thank you.
Oh, Acharya, but in the previous verse, you said that anybody who has any element of fear implies that he's still in duality. So how does one reconcile with that statement? Even if there is any fleeting emotion of fear, that implies that a small element of duality, even if for a fleeting second, it exists.
In whose mind?
In the mind of a jnani only, even when we are
No,
saying, you're saying
there
that
is a
the
problem.
FIR cannot
When
be zero.
FIR will never be zero. But a fear which is impetuous to protect yourself is different from a fear which paralyzes you, in which you just can't do anything. That's the difference.
So we take fear in that definition. Even in Bhagavad Gita, when he says fearlessness is the quality, so it has to be taken in relative terms this way.
It is always relative. Because as long as you have a mind, if you have a body and you want to protect the body, fear is a very strong, what they call triggering factor. Isn't it?
Acharya, it is, but
does
it
it
is
paralyze you
difficult to.
completely? That's the question. Am I so afraid that I can't think? That is different. Or is the fear there and with my intellect, I say, okay, this is going to harm me, but let me see what I can do to stop the situation. That is what we are talking about. A practical approach. It's not peculiar to a jnani, okay? A soldier on the battlefield also has the same thing. He is in the face of danger, but he knows that is a reality. Therefore, he tries to overcome it using his intellect.
So, Ravi, would it, just going back to the point, would it be then like he is able to essentially, the Sakshi Chaitanya, which is essentially seeing his own emotions, he's able to kind of witness his own emotions happening, but since the identification is not strong, he goes through what is needed in the moment, but at all times is aware that he is not, I wouldn't use the word separate, because then it means there is a duality between the Sakshi and mind, but essentially he sees that he is not affected by it. He isn't the real he. The self is not.
There is a contradiction there because the real he doesn't have a mind.
So he has a high aghata nivrutti.
He has the freedom to go through problems in life and not be affected. Yes, that is a correct statement from the Jnani's point of view. The same thing which will destroy an Ajnani, the Jnani faces differently. It doesn't mean that he doesn't have mental pain. It doesn't mean that he doesn't have a little bit of fear. But the fear for a Jnani is more practical. Like that emotion, with that emotion, he will try to utilize it fruitfully, ensure that he does what is necessary. The Jnani will just panic. The freedom from identification to the body, that is the main criteria here. Am I the body or not? If I am not the body, how much should I be afraid? Enough to take care of the body or be paralyzed?
Raviji, in that case, karmas will never end, isn't it?
Why? If you see, whatever actions you are doing as a Ajnani and whatever actions you are doing as a Jnani, there is a very basic difference. Actions could be the same. Now, if I am teaching so that, let us say, I get a reputation as a great teacher, and if I am teaching because I would like other people to know the Shastra, what is the difference?
The intention?
The intention. Yeah.
In one case, it is for my personal, benefit, great reputation. In other case, it's for the benefit of others. That is the exact difference for a Jnani's work and a Ajnani's work. The Jnani will continue to do the same work which he was doing when he was Ajnani, but the basis for doing the work has changed. People work, do actions to be happy. The Jnani works not to be happy, but to make sure that others are benefited. Because for the Jnani, that happiness is already there. Okay, Rajeshwari ji, your hand is still up.
Oh, still up. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, okay. Fine. So then let us look at the next verse, which is verse number 54. We will chant. Yasmin sarvani bhutani.
Yasmin
sarvani bhutani
Yatmatvena vijanataha. Navaitasya bhavenmohaha. Nacha shoko dvitiyataha. So there is a repetition here, and as you can see, some of the ideas are being repeated over here, and therefore we have to recall the rule of the Mimamsa. Purva Mimamsa, there is a rule that the essence of a particular section or a particular chapter or a particular text, that is to say, scriptural text, the essence is available from basically 6 factors, which are called Tatparya Lingam. Remember? What are they? There is a nice little verse. What is the verse?
Tadlingani. Are we talking about
Upakramo upasamharau. Upakramo upasamharau. Abhyaso purvata phalam. Arthavadopapatti cha lingam tatparya nirnaye. What does it mean? Upakrama upasamharo. The beginning summary and the closing summary. Abhyasaha, repetition. Apurvata, not having come across the same subject before. Phalam, and the fruit. Arthavadaha upapatti. The glorification and upapatti is the logic behind it. Lingam, tatparya, nirnaya. These are the 6 factors. Okay. Now, out of them, we are now looking at one of the lingams, which is abhyasaha. Abhyasaha means repetition. And because of this Mimamsa rule that repetitive statements in various shrutis, they indicate the actual tatparyam, the actual essence of the text. Shankara is repeating this again and again. That is why he is giving shruti statement after shruti statement, right? And here there is it's a statement from the Ishavasya Upanishad, which we have not done, right? And that Upanishad statement, statement is, the mantra is, Yasmin sarvani bhutani atmaiva bhuta vijanataha tatra ko mohaha kaha shokaha ekvatvam anupasyataha. So he says, Yasmin sarvani bhutani atmaiva bhuta vijanataha. For the person who understands that sarvani bhutani atmaiva bhutaha, the entire creation is nothing but Atma alone. For the person who understands that everything in creation, all beings in creation are not different from himself, from Atma alone, for such a person, tatra ko mohaha, where is the question of delusion, kaha shokaha, where is the question of sorrow? And that is paraphrased here. So he says, Yasmin sarvani bhutani yatmatvena vijanataha. For the person who knows that everything is Brahman alone, navai tasya moha bhave. For him, there is no moha, there is no delusion. Nacha shokaha, nor for him is there any sorrow, because advitiyataha, the absence of duality is there. Everything is non-dual only. So you can take the case of the dream. Who projects the dream? The waker or the dreamer?
The dreamer.
Waker.
The waker.
Waker projects the dream. What is the difference? The waker loses sight of the fact that he is the person who projects. And he becomes the dreamer in the dream. The dreamer in the dream has a dream world, but since the dreamer does not know that he is a dreamer, he takes himself as real, he takes the world also as real. Dvitiyam. 2 things are there, I and the world, and therefore the world becomes a cause for fear. Right? Now, just think that if while dreaming, you are dreaming with the clear knowledge that it is a dream, would you be afraid?
No.
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 Would you be sorrowful?
No.
Mhm.
The closest to that is watching a movie, right? Because you lose the sight of the fact, if the movie is interesting enough, I'm saying, not today's movies. If the movie is interesting enough, you lose the sight of the fact that you are the person who's watching the movie. But at any point of time, you can break the sorrow of the movie by remembering that you are an outsider, that you are the watcher. Right? That is why when ladies are sobbing in the movie, the husband gets mad and says, keep quiet, it's only a movie. He's bringing you back to the fact that it's only a movie. You are not involved in it. So that's what is being said here. For a jnani, And for Ajnani, the world is very much perceived. Right? For the Ajnani, he gets frightened because what he experiences is real for him. For the Jnani, the experience is real. The perception of the world is real, but he knows that the world is mithya, the experience is mithya. Therefore, he is not frightened. Because if you know that the world is not different from you, then there is nobody to be frightened about. So you see non-duality, therefore you have no sorrow and no fear also. That's what is said here. And the same thing you will find statement after statement in these verses. The whole idea is to drive into our heads what you exist, what are you alone exist. You can do your, Vyavaharika transactions. You can be a good mother, a good wife, a good husband, a good father, a good son, good daughter, good, be everything. But in and through all these transactions, never forget that you are Brahman. And not only that, never forget that the person with whom you are dealing is also Brahman. And that's the most important part of this story. So let us look at the next verse. Verse number 55. Ayam Atma hi Brahmaiva.
Ayam
Ayam
Atma hi
Atma hi
Brahmaiva
Brahmaiva
Sarvatmakataya sthitah.
Sarvatmakataya stitah
Iti nirdharitam shrutya.
Nirdharitam Shrutya
Bhadaranya samsthaya. So here, of course, it's obvious that the Upanishad under reference is Brihadaranyaka. And the statement is a very famous one. I am Atma Brahma. This Atma is Brahman only. Okay. And those of us who have completed Upanishad classes will know that this statement occurs in one more Upanishad. Which is that?
Comes in the Mandukya Upanishad.
It comes in the Mandukya Upanishad. So that is being repeated here. Remember this Abhyasa, the repetition, to show that this is the essence of the Veda. So it says, I am Atma hi Brahma eva. I the Atma, this Atma. This Atma means I am is this. I am Atma, this Atma, which is what? This I alone. I am Brahman only. And Sarva Atmakataya Sthitaha. Sthitaha Sarva Atmakataya. I am the very content of everything. So the essence of the entire Jagat, the entire creation, is what I alone. I am Atma. I am that Atma. I am that Brahman. I am available all the time. But because I am available all the time, I am the subject. That is why, you can never, science can never study consciousness. Why? Because the person who studies, he is the one who is conscious. The very essence, the very, substratum of the observer or the scientist is consciousness itself. How can you study that own thing? What are you going to use to study it? The mind functions because of consciousness. How can you study that consciousness? Right? Remember, whenever we use the words Brahman and Atman, they are basically used very loosely. Okay. The real word is Brahman, Brahadar, Brahad, infinite. Right? The word Atman is used to indicate that you are that infinite Brahman. And who says it? Says this? Iti nirdharitam shrutya. This has been established by Shruti. Which Shruti? Brihadaranyaka has been established by this particular Upanishad also. We'll take the last word, last verse for today. Verse number 56. We'll chant. Anubhutopyayam loko.
Anubhutopyayam loko
Vyavaharakshamopi san.
Vyavaharakshamopi san
Asad rupo yatha swapna.
Sadrupo yatha swapna
Uttarakshana bhadhatah.
Uttarakshana bhadataha.
Okay. So here we are saying that the Jagat, it cannot be said to be non-existent. If you say Jagat is non-existent, what is the problem? We know that Shruti says that whatever is non-existent can never come into existence. Right? Nor can we say that Jagat is existent, because it can be negated. And what can be negated cannot be really existent. Therefore, there's an intermediate category, neither non-existent nor existent, but seemingly existent category. Right? In a seemingly existent category, you can negate the experience, the perception you cannot negate. Right? You don't negate the experience or the perception of the seemingly existent vastu. What you negate is the reality of the vastu. Right? Remember also that what is non-existent can never be perceived. And that is why Vedanta doesn't ever deny the experience of a dream. Whenever you talk about dream, in Shruti, you never say dream doesn't exist, because you experience a dream. What you deny, what you negate is the reality of the dream. Right? In the rope snake example, for example, you don't ever say that no, you don't see a snake. The experienced snake is always there. It is never negated. You cannot negate the experience of the snake because you are seeing the snake. What you negate is the reality of the snake. You say that snake which you see is not a real snake. It appears to be a snake. Similarly, every morning when you see the sun rise, you are a rational person. You cannot say that sun is not rising. The perception of the sun rising, you can never negate. What you can negate is the conclusion that the sun rises. Right? So that negation of the idea that the sun rises, that is knowledge. But you can never negate the perception of the sun rising. Similarly, Vedanta never negates the experience of the world, the transactions in the world, and the utility in the world. We never deny. Right? What you deny is the reality of these things. So time is experienced, world is experienced. So cause and effect are very much there. Transactions are there, relationships are there. But you ask the question, when I say I do transactions, when I say I have relationships, who is this I? If you are clear that you are using that I in a figurative sense, what we call in Sanskrit, gauna prayoga, knowing that the usage of I is wrong, but deliberately using it for communication, that is called gauna prayoga, figurative use. Knowing that you are the Atma, but when you say I am hungry, referring to the pranamaya kosha. The statement I am hungry, the I refers to pranamaya. When you say I am hurting or my leg is hurting, that my refers to your sthula shariram. It is called a figurative usage as long as you are aware that the real I is the Atma. Right? And therefore he says here, I am lokaha anubhutaha. This world is indeed experienced. Why? I am lokaha vyavahara kshamaha. So shamata here is the fitness. This loka, this world, is appropriate for transactions. And therefore, as a Advaitin, you cannot but obey the laws of karma. But even while karma is, torturing your body and mind, you will hold on to the knowledge that you are the Atma. During every transaction, therefore, you have to hold on to something which is changeless. And that changeless, Atma, I am. Once you have that grip, then the world can no longer trouble you. Therefore, it says, Asadrupaha. The world is not Sat, right? It is Mithya Rupa only. How? Yatha Swapnaha. Just like the dream which is experienced. But what happens? Uttarakshanaha badhataha. Uttarakshanaha means the very next instant. Next instant means after waking up. So Uttara Kshana badhataha means the same dream which you experienced so vividly while you were dreaming can be negated at the very next instant when you have woken up. Right? So after finding that unchanging Atma is me, then it doesn't matter what is going around you. Therefore, experience is there, available for all transactions. But don't take that experience as a reality. And just like the moment you wake up, the entire dream world goes away. The moment you understand that you're Atman, the troubles of the Vyavaharika world will also go away. So with this, we'll stop for today. Any questions? It's not, as heavy as Upanishads. It's basically only a very quick summary of what we were doing earlier. Whatever has been done so far is being repeated again and again and again. That's the purpose of some of the Prakarana Granthas, to serve as a consolidating entity. That is what we are doing here. Okay.
Acharya ji.
Yes.
So in the last session, the 49th verse, Brahma sarva bhutani jayante paramatmanaha tasmadetani brahmaiva bhavati tyavadharaye. So we learned that, and we also know that this anatma is atma karyam, is born of atma. And
Yes.
we also learned that we also know that karana gunaha karye anuvartante.
Yes.
So but anatma and atma, for them this rule is not valid, is not applicable. Karana gunaha karye anuvartante.
See, when you say something is born from Brahman, you are talking about Saguna Brahman or Nirguna Brahman?
Saguna.
Saguna Brahman. Saguna Brahman consists of what?
Brahman plus mind.
Sorry?
Anatma, Atma, both.
Anatma, Atma. What is Anatma part of Saguna Brahman?
What is Atma part? The same Brahman.
What is Anatma part of Saguna Brahman?
Maya.
Maya. And what is Atma part of Saguna Brahman?
Brahman.
Brahman alone.
Right. Now, when you say that Jagat is born from Brahman, which part are you referring to? Brahman or Maya?
Maya.
Brahman
Maya.
plus Maya.
It is in that context that the gunas of Maya are found in the product.
Samajh gayi. Thank you.
Okay. The three gunas of Maya are always there in the product. Brahman doesn't change. See, that's why when we say that Brahman is the creator, you are talking from the point of, or you can say Ishvara is the creator. When you say Ishvara is Nimitta Karanam, it is the viewpoint from Brahman. When you say Ishvara is Upadana Karanam, it is a viewpoint from Maya. So when you say, make these statements, just make sure the understanding is clear.
But
Karana
Acharya,
Guna, yeah.
but we also say that Brahman is the Vivarta Upadana Karanam.
Ishvara is Vivarta Upadana Karanam.
Yes.
Brahman cannot be Upadana Karanam.
Yes. Ishvara is the Vivarta Karanam.
That is because Maya and Brahman are both involved. Maya cannot function without Brahman.
Yes.
Remember that in scriptures, Brahman is used, very indiscriminately for both Nirguna and Saguna Brahman.
Yes. Ishvara and Brahman are interchangeable.
Ishvara also is used indiscriminately. So when understanding, we have to be careful.
Yes.
Yes,
So
sir,
when
there is sometimes that confusion.
It is applicable for the Maya.
Maya push. Correct.
Saguna.
Okay, Rajeshwari ji, boliye.
Acharya ji, there are, in an experience, there are two parts. I'm just putting together my thoughts. Help me just clarify and coherently place it with reference to what we are doing. Any experience, as I see it, has two parts. One is the objective experience and the other is the subjective experience. So I see the apple as the apple, and there could be this where I see that apple is equal to healthy. So that's the subjective part that I'm trying to connect here.
Okay.
When Acharya is telling here that the experience is not negated, is he referring to both the subjective and the objective experience? Or is he, because the subjective experience itself is a superimposition on the object, and it is that without the subjective experience, if I just say the apple exists, but the subjectivity is not added to it. One. Two, the very apple itself is negated.
The health is for whom? Atma, Anatma.
Anatma.
The whole thing is subjective. Whole thing is Vyavaharika. Whole thing can be negated.
So even the physicality of the apple is...
Perception of the apple is very much there.
Right.
The health benefit of the apple is very much there. But
Correct.
for what? For the body mind.
Yes.
That belongs to Vyavaharika. Vyavaharika is dependent reality, therefore it can be negated. That is what is being said.
Right.
Atma doesn't need the apple for its one benefit.
Right. And so just to clarify what I have understood from what you stated, the subjective experience is anyways part of the anatma. Yes. So that does not belong to that this.
Atma at all.
Correct. And the object is perceived by everyone.
Yes.
And that is not negated, but its very existence is subject to the fact of the consciousness cognizing it. So its existence is dependent on the consciousness, because otherwise it is anyways jada. So I'm there. That is where I'm caught a little. If you can help me.
No, its existence is always, existence of anything is dependent upon your consciousness.
Correct. So being jada, then do we not deny, but do we negate that as well?
Yes, of course. Your negation is not the existence of the apple. Is the apple mithya or satyam is the negation? Don't think that when I say I negate the apple, I am negating its existence as an apple.
Physicality, right?
I am
I got
negating
it.
its existence as Atma.
Yes, clear.
I am saying it doesn't exist separate from Atma.
Clear. Draws its existence from the consciousness itself.
From the consciousness principle only.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, so with this we'll stop. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam Eva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat. Om Namah
Om
Shivaya.
Tat
Thank you
Sat.
for your
Om Namah
patience.
Shivaya. Thank you so much.